What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? Good morning, Sunday morning, the day after the 2019 NFL Draft officially closed. This is my 12th draft coming on YouTube and doing these videos, and I can't say anything but great things about it. I'm so happy that I started doing these way back in '07, and I'm going to continue to do so as long as I'm around. So I can't wait for the many more to come. But this is all about the 2019 NFL Draft. I'm not going to really talk about anything else but the draft. I'll come on and do a live later to get everybody's feedback and to feel the tenor of everybody, how they're feeling after this. But yeah, right away, the week leading up, the speculation starts. Who's going to be around? You start really getting tangible names attached to teams. The Jonah Williams love started. You started hearing about Oliver possibly as high as 3 to the Jets. And then you're kind of like, well, I think he's going to be off the board. So it's like, got to kind of put your heart somewhere else. A fan favorite obviously was Hockenson. I really liked Hockenson. And on to Thursday we go. Right away, the first 3 picks come off. But preceding that, a lot of rumors, a lot of conjecture. I just didn't feel like these Jets trade rumors had much substance to them because mainly, as we all know, they were from Jets people. Bills media was kind of like weren't even really touching it. They were retweeting national people and Jets people like Costello, Connor Orr, and Rogers, I believe, is another guy. So it was just kind of it made no sense. And you put that together with being last year didn't want to dip into this year's draft pool to go up and get his quarterback because he had accumulated so many resources to do it to do it just with what he had. It made no sense for a defensive tackle. It really would have left a sour taste in my mouth if they would have came out of the top 3 rounds and possibly something in 20 with Quinnen Williams. It did nothing for me. I'm very leery of Alabama players. I won't hide that. I'm leery of Clemson players. I understand they're winning programs, but I just think with Alabama players, there's so much talent there. It means NFL talent, don't get me wrong, but it's really hard to discern who is the true alpha dog from the A from the B. They're all alphas, but it's truly hard to separate who the real elite guys are, because I've used this example. There's been a lot of studs that have come out of Alabama, stud prospects, but who's lived up to that top billing in the last, they put NFL players in like no other. And you have to go back to 2011 with Julio Jones to find that stud, and that's 8 years ago now. So, but thankfully that never came to fruition. And then the next 3 picks are what really did it. The first 3 were, as advertised, Murray, Bosa, Quinnen Williams, and then the shocker, Cleveland Farrell. Then one everybody kind of had pegged 2 weeks out that, went higher than I initially thought. And a lot of people initially thought, but the real buzz for him came up. I heard it as you heard it, I'm sure, as a month out. Devin White to Tampa Bay. Then the second quarterback, which was the key piece for the Bills, just getting a guy that hopefully we all had earmarked, they had earmarked more importantly, and Daniel Jones to the Giants. And that pick, I'll just say this about that pick, because I think about the Bills pick last year with Josh Allen and how it was received by Bills fans, including myself. I was negative about the pick. I was, kind of glum and not thrilled about it. And it grew on me. I became open to it, and as the season played out and he came back from the elbow, I was like, okay, I think this kid, the skill set and the ability and just the leadership and the, I think this kid really has a chance. I really think this kid has a chance. And I say that to Giants fans, and I say that to anybody. Daniel Jones is this year's Josh Allen, and I'm going to root for him unless they play the Bills. And I hope because of the New York media is so they can be wretched. you guys can think Bills media, the Buffalo News, whoever else, certain people on WGR are negative. Trust me, this New York media, they are ravenous wolves. So I really hope Daniel Jones in time just shuts them all up. Now, the 7th pick, Josh Allen, kind of funny, he preceded what I was just talking about. And then that's where it's like, okay. That's why I had tweeted out before. I'm like, there's a possibility Josh Allen could be there for the Bills, because I had heard some things that there was certain questions about him being a one-year wonder. And I started to hear that, and I started to hear, that shock pick, and I was kind of like, well, if this is a shock pick, and when it comes to the Raiders, certain teams like the Raiders, the Redskins, and there's leaks, I trust those leaks. There's certain other teams and sources I don't trust, but when it comes to certain teams, I believe that. 8th pick, a Bills fan favorite, TJ Hawkinson. I heard the Lions wanted to get Gronkowski last year, and a trade didn't happen. They never truly replaced Eric Ebron. Went on to the Colts, had a great year. They want to build around the quarterback. They paid a lot of money. He's kind of in that fight or flight mode of his career with Matthew Stafford, so they get him a weapon. And now the Bills have their pick of a couple of guys, and it just all fell into place perfectly, with Kyle Williams retiring, the need to just get younger there, to get more dynamic, to improve the pass rush. The offseason so heavily geared toward offense, as it should have been, because let's face it, this offense has been in the doldrums for too long, whether it's from lack of quarterback production, which it has been, or just lack of weapons, which recently it has been. It was either one or the other. Either the quarterback wasn't good enough and there was enough weapons, or the quarterback was just good enough and there wasn't enough weapons, and that rarely the two have ever met. I mean, rarely, if ever. If ever. But Ed Oliver, I couldn't have fathomed 2 years ago, a year ago, when the Bills made this pick. I remember seeing his first game against Oklahoma, I believe, on ESPN. It was an opening game in 16, and as a freshman, just how dominant he was in that game. He was just everywhere in that game, everywhere. There was a game at Oklahoma, he just terrorized them. And they just had the best offensive line, and they've put in some really good players. Orlando Brown last year, Samia, Cody Ford, who I'll talk about in a second, Powers. They've had a lot of really, really good players come in the NFL on their offense, from their offensive line. And this kid he was all over them. One Baker Mayfield. And I had heard some things, remember, like a few months ago, that somebody, I think it was Joe Marino, threw it out about a possibility he should be a linebacker or something to that effect, and it was like, and then I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm not talking about, I don't want him to move to linebacker. He moves like a linebacker, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, he literally does, when the ball's in space and he's got to run and chase, he moves like a linebacker. So in essence, you have a defensive tackle out there who moves like a linebacker. So you're in a 4-3, or you're in your nickel. It's essentially like having another linebacker out there in terms of athletic ability, because this guy, his lateral side, he's a sideline to sideline defensive tackle. That is insane. The plays he makes in the backfield when he knifes through the B gap and gets into the backfield and chases plays and either runs them into other defenders or brings them down himself from the backside, it's insane. And I look at those 50-plus tackles for losses in basically 2 3/4 seasons. Unbelievable. Everybody will get on the sack production. Playing a zero nose is not his forte, especially at the NFL level, but especially in college, when it's easier for him to get blocked up and caught in the wash, and you're able to get more bodies on him playing right over the center. You see him getting double and triple teamed. That's not going to be the case with the Bills. He's got Starr next to him, Hughes on his right. He's a guy you can also move around, and then you have, hopefully, a nice healthy rotation, with Trent Murphy fully healthy and Shaq Lawson, who's really come on in the last year year and 3/4 under this regime. I don't think they're going to pick up his option, but he's really turned, didn't give him the first round production, but from being brought in from a prior regime, they've kept him around, and he's become a nice player for them. He really has, and I take my hat off to him because he's really, bought into the culture, bought into the transition, and he's become a nice player. And they believe in a rotation. They have Phillips, who became a fan favorite because he just really embraced Buffalo. Former second round pick from Oklahoma, has more size. So he's not going to have to sit in there and be the stalwart. He's going to play between 65-70% of the snaps. I lean towards 65. And he's going to have fresh bodies around him at all. He's going to be fresh because of the rotation. And they're really going to have a nice group up front now. He just really just capped it off beautifully. And I can't remember the last time the Bills had a guy this dynamic in the front. Marcel had a year or so of that, but his motor ran so hot and cold. We all know that about him. I'm not here to kick him. He had a few nice years with the Bills when, that whole cold front thing was clicking, which was only a year really, but he never, he wasn't a great run defender. Again, and his motor was just so, let's just put it this way, if you were to put his size and his athletic ability in Kyle Williams' mind and heart and determination, oh my God, this guy would be well on his way to wearing a gold jacket. He would be headed to Canton wearing roller skates in an ice rink. And that's the kind of player that Ed Oliver is. He is the first overall pick, so I sit here and wax poetic about him. Even though he hasn't played an NFL down, I tweeted it out. I retweeted a tweet I put a year ago, and was watching some things about him. And in 2018, way before the Bills, I could ever have fathomed the Bills would ever get him, because I never thought the Bills would get him, because he's just, that's because usually where they draft, I'm like, this guy's going to be a top 3 pick, possibly the first overall. Especially with the whole Aaron Donald thing, his ability to dominate. Yeah, Aaron Donald wasn't even a top 10 pick. I said, he's a freak show. I said, Ed Oliver's a freak show. This is what a generational player looks like. That. And hopefully he can be that for the Bills and then some, because he's a phenomenal talent and he's everything the Bills needed. The perfect replacement for Kyle Williams at the 3 technique, and he's going to be able to do that instead of the 0, and we're happy to have him here with the Bills. Now on to the second pick, and I'll preface it by saying this is finally the Bills are building a team how I've wanted it to be built forever. You get your quarterback, and then you build your lines, and then you continue to reinfuse your lines with talent. Outside of that, to me, in my opinion, everything else is tertiary. And the machination that the draft is, people, we've seen this from the Bills. They always get cute in the past. They've always gotten cute. We can go back to getting cute, to trading for Drew Bledsoe, which at the time everybody loved. I was never in love of giving a division foe a first-round pick. That's why with this whole Jets thing, I was losing my goddamn mind. I was like, there's no way they're going to be this stupid. This would be the move that would make me vomit, which didn't happen. And was, after everything that's come out, was never even close. The Willis McGahee, drafting a guy that you won running back who wasn't going to play a year, who wanted any more less to be in Buffalo. Then you trade up for a lost man. You have no first in 05 because you trade with Dallas. 6, you trade and you get, McCargo in the first round, and he never becomes much of anything. Thankfully, they drafted Kyle that year. I believe they used their second and some other things to go up there. 07, they drafted another running back who turned in, Marshawn Lynch might be a Hall of Fame running back. He really might. And, 08, a corner to replace Jabari Greer, who they didn't re-sign. I can just, 09, Mabin, who's, had no passion for football. was going through a lot, lost a child, him and the woman that he was with. You know, Eric Wood, nice player, foundational player, but you know, you don't re-sign Jason Peters, who's gone an undrafted free agent, who's probably gone on to have a Hall of Fame career, being one of the best left tackles for a long time, a position the Bills have turned over a lot, and he's still playing in the league. Granted, he's at the twilight, and he's probably done after this year, but still. And, you know, they've chased their tail in a lot of areas. E.J. Manuel. I can just go on C.J. Spiller the next year. And that's just getting cute. They've gotten cute. The Sammy Watkins trade, you know the names. I'm just you know, doing a refresher course, and then you don't have a first round pick in 15, and so build the lines. They snipped up a few spots. It was I believe it was what they trade. It was like a fourth, or no, it wasn't a fourth. It was their second, and I believe it was a fifth, a second and a fifth. So that's minuscule. They go up a couple of spots. They secure their player, Cody Ford. You know, a guy that they believe can play right tackle. He's played all over the line. Pardon that again. And just, you know, a guy who can play inside. Solid addition, and he's the 8th player they brought in on the offensive line. 8th. That just goes to tell you what they thought about the offensive line last year, whether it was coaching standpoint, personnel standpoint. They have totally refused that line. Cody Ford, really soft-spoken guy, but has great beard game, great hair game, awesome. I love my linemen to look like that, you know, like mountain minish. I love it. And he's got good arm length. He's got good athleticism. If you watch him in that Oklahoma offense, he moves. He's a lot more nimble than you think for a guy his size. I was watching just to make sure he could play tackle a little bit. Not that I need to put my stamp of approval on that. They do. And he's got some quick feet. He's got some light feet. And he can definitely get out and do those, hopefully some screen plays, some things where, get the lineman in space and get on some smaller guys. So build the lines. They're not sexy. They're not going to win you fantasy points, but boy, can they win games. Now, the third pick was the most interesting pick for a lot of people because it wasn't so much the player, it was the position. Devin Singletary, running back, and everybody's like, instantly their mind is like, wow, Shady is really, really 1 foot out the door, the other on a banana peel. They had just signed Yeldon a few days prior, brought in Frank Gore, Sonoris Perry, who's going to be one of their core special teams players after a horrific special teams showing in 18 on every level. People don't realize this. You're going to have 3 to 4 guys whose roster spots are going to be totally allocated to special teams, and Perry's one of those guys. So remember, this guy's probably going to be on the 46th game day active. That leaves you, how many running backs you're going to have? You're going to have your fullback and Patrick DeMarco or somebody of a fullback skill set, and then you're going to have your other 2 backs. That's 4. So your numbers are getting sparse here. Okay, numbers are getting real thin. And at $6 million, given everything we've known that he did in terms of lack of production last year, the off-the-field thing, never got disciplined for it, never anything, but still a distraction they don't want. He had the captaincy, fumbled that, and pun is intended there, fumbled that with, not talking to the media, being surly, only talking to the media after his best game with the Jets, then, being late for a team bus or a meeting, and then he was benched for the first quarter for Keith Ford, seemingly, kind of went down before he was contacted. Just wasn't the same player. And granted, we obviously know they feel like the line was responsible for a lot of the shortcomings, but they brought in 4 running backs. So they obviously feel like the running backs were not good enough either. Granted, it wasn't the greatest of rooms, but still, you got a guy making his salary at his age, and kind of a tenuous situation in his running style. You bring in Gore, you bring in Yeldon, you bring in Perry, and now Singletary. That's saying something. And I think that, his days are numbered with the Bills, irregardless of what they say, him being the starter. I don't, you know, go by the moves, don't go by the words. Now on to the next pick, a move they jump up a couple of spots to do, and it's a position that's been in the doldrums for the Bills. They tried to sign players in the past to give it a boost, particularly the Charles Clay contract, which was an albatross. I mean, the guy, the contract he got's not his fault. That was the Bills' fault, and he's never going to live up to that contract. And okay player, solid player. The injury bug, particularly the knee, which was reportedly an issue from the time they signed him, finally caught up to him this year. And, they end up releasing him, rightfully so. Dawson Knox from Ole Miss. I don't worry about the statistics or lack thereof. I don't worry about the no touchdowns. The wide receivers that got the balls before him in that offense, you had DK Metcalf, you had A.J. Brown, you had DeMarcus Lodge. So he was buried behind those guys. 2 years mainly, a converted quarterback, which I didn't know. He catches the ball. He's so fluid when he catches the ball. You see some of those over-the-shoulder catches, and he's definitely a threat for run after catch. A definite threat for run after the catch. He's a guy who could be a seam splitter for you, detached or on the line, a matchup guy. I think you could line up wide or inside, and that's the way that Daboll wants to utilize his tight ends, whether it's Croft, Kroom, Knox, and another guy that they picked later on, who I'll talk about in a minute. So they really have a nice stable now, nice, a veteran, a young player who's trying to come on, and a couple of rookies. So they've really refreshed that room as well, and rightfully so, because I've so longed to have that position for the Bills be a focal point. You see what other teams do, and you just like, when are the Bills going to get the memo about tight ends, the way they're utilized in the league? When? And I'll go back to the Singletary pick. Finally, for the Bills, it signals, you know what? Our running back is no longer the focal point of our offense. Our quarterback is the focal point of our offense. It's built around our quarterback, and the running back position is just a position that's going to be a 2 to 3 year turnstile. Thank you. As it should be. No more invest in first round picks and running backs. No more. Third is as high as you go. And to me, that's even significant, because that's a third round pick. That's, to me, a significant investment in that position. That guy is going to be on the roster. Okay, so I'll get off that, back to Knox. I think he definitely improve as a blocker, as most rookie tight ends can, but he's a guy that I feel he can come in, as a rookie, let's be modest here, catch 30 to 35 passes, average, hopefully above 13 yards a catch, score 4 to 6 touchdowns as a rookie. I feel like he can do that, and really give this, that's starting position. That's what the Bills starters have gotten, pretty much yielded more, give or take, whether it was Robert Royal, Mark Campbell, Dave Moore, the list goes on and on about, just tight ends that they've had. This isn't Derek Fine. This guy is a way, way better prospect than that. And you guys don't even remember that name, but he never did anything for the Bills. Or Derek Schumann, if you will. Those guys were just, Jags, just guys. They didn't really have anything in terms of what this guy can bring from a physical standpoint and upside standpoint. So he's, out of the mid-round picks, he's one of the ones I'm most excited about. And the next guy is a guy I was really excited about, because he's a guy, I made a little board. I know it sounds corny, but he's a guy that I had earmarked to the Bills. The very next pick, the linebacker from Florida. I'm a huge Gator. I'm a huge Gator fan. Saw a lot of this guy. He was such an underrated player for the Florida Gator defense. He shoot gaps, sideline to sideline. Crazy the way he doesn't engage blocks. He kind of slides off of them. And then once he gets the separation from the prospective blocker, boom, he's gone, makes a tackle. And he's like a heat-seeking missile. And again, like I said, he's a crazy athlete, sideline to sideline. He's definitely going to help on special teams. He's definitely going to be a linebacker that they're going to rotate. Could come in for an injury, can come in and just, give somebody a blow. And who knows? Who knows? I mean, Matt Milano was a guy that was just drafted in the 5th round, and now he's a starter and a very, very good player for the Bills. And this kid is a better athlete than him. It, and this is the kind of defense they want, a fast defense that's physical enough but is just built on speed, effort, and relentless pursuit. And this kid fits the bill to a T, so I'm really excited to have him. And again, when you're in these rounds, these guys have to play special teams, and he's going to do that in that unit from a coverage standpoint, a kick return standpoint. Given Hauschka's injury at the end of the year, I won't throw kicking in there so much because I'll give him a pass. And a punting standpoint, need to get markedly better at, and hopefully he can help do that in some areas. The next pick, Queen Johnson's not a guy I had attached to the Bills at all. Did some reading up on him, watched him. He's definitely a guy when he'll intercept the ball. I didn't realize, he's pretty much kind of one of those guys. He always seems to be in the right place in the right time. And when that guy is like that, he's a smart player. He's a heady player. He knows where to be. He was a captain on that team. He seemed to be a lightning rod for them, a sort of a talisman. He's a guy who rallied people and was a leader. No, not one of those, you think of you think of Miami, you think of, guys who are petulant, who are high-level athletes, but they're kind of like, they're a bit of a lightning rod. And he's not that at all. A team player, a guy that you see fits that culture that they want to continue to infuse, guys that'll adapt and abide by and even build on. And he's one of those guys. And again, a guy, special teams guy, a reserve guy who can come in and compete for a reserve safety spot. Because there's really no guy that's that third safety right now. They brought in Saran Neal last year. He's kind of, see where he goes. They have Raphael Bush, Dean Marlowe, but that other guy, that third guy, that's up for debate, and he's got the chance to be that guy. And on to the next pick, couple of 7th-rounders. So now you're getting in the lean rounds. But here's a guy I had, Daryl Johnson, a school that's never had a player drafted. And, the only comp I could give him in terms of play style and body style, and again, I'm not saying he's going to be like this player. I'm just saying play style and body type was the former great Miami Dolphin, Jason Taylor, who terrorized the Bills for a long time. His body comp is just like that. Long, wiry guy, can stand to put on some weight. Brandon Beane touched on that at the press conference when he spoke about him, that, this guy's in a small school. What kind of NFL nutrition program did he have? This guy's going to put on 5 to 8 pounds, which is significant, of good lean muscle mass, and help him be a little bit more of a factor in run game. But he's definitely a guy. He's got long arms, 34 inches, can, hopefully with that strength become an edge setter, and then just get upfield and rush the passer, bat passes down. He's got long arms. He's wiry. So, he's a guy that could, hopefully sneak onto the roster and make an impact in a defensive line rotation. So 3 linemen out of the 8 picks. I'm all for it. 2 on D, 1 on O. Good shit. Now on to the next pick. Another tight end. A guy I didn't have pegged for the Bills at all. Tommy Sweeney, a BC guy, similar to Matt Milano. Just workers, guys who are culture guys, team first guys. And when I watched him after they picked him, because that's what we do, right? We watch players, we see them. He's a lot more of a factor in a pass game that from a team that ran the ball twice as much as they passed it at BC than I thought he would be. He's not the highest level athlete, even for a tight end, but he just seems to be one of those sneaky guys who finds those soft spots and zones. Is physical. He'll put his head down, fight for extra yards. Made some pretty tough diving catches from what I saw. So he's got a willingness and an ability to make some tough catches, whether they're diving or jumping or just putting his head down after a catch and trying to get some yards. But he's a lot more apt of a pass receiver, and he's definitely a physical run blocker. You've seen him drive block people, pancake him right into the ground. So there is another guy. I really believe this roster is going to carry 4 tight ends on it when it's all said and done. And I love that. I love, I hate to use them, that New England, a few other teams did, just that's such a vital position. Can do so many different things for you. And again, he's a guy who can play on special teams, whether they're, kick blocking units. I don't think he'll be so much on the coverage teams, but he'll definitely be on the units that are blocking for, whether it's a punt or mostly field goals and extra points. So Bills fans, let me know what you think of the 2019 NFL draft class. That's 18 players. They're well into undrafted free agency right now, as are most teams. The most ballyhooed signing out of that was Tyreek Jackson, the UB quarterback, big, strong arm. Bean was kind of taken aback. Everybody knew about it so quickly after the draft ended when he did their presser. But it's like, how can you not, the way information flies around these days, He was a guy who was invited to the Senior Bowl, wasn't drafted. I just feel like his delivery is very long. He's a guy, he's going to need work and refinement, but he's got a massive arm. He's really tall, and tall quarterbacks in the history of this game generally have those longer releases, a little bit slower. He's a really good athlete, though. I think he's more of a straight line athlete, but he's got one of those long stride. Again, he's a guy maybe at the end of it all you can stash on your practice squad and develop for a couple of years. But this is the third year. Granted, Nathan Peterman was a disaster, but this is the third year they've brought in a quarterback. Draft, undrafted free agency. With the first thing they did, they brought in Peterman, 5th round flyer. They centered it all around Allen, which eventually became Allen in 18. And now, first acquisition in undrafted free agency was a big quarterback with a lot of potential. So that I'm fine with that. And I'll cap it off with this: a GM, a guy in a vital decision-making position for the Bills, finally came out and said it. All the wishy-washy guys we've had in the past, all the chest-thumping, bloviating guys that we've had in this run of crap, whether we can go back to Donahoe all the way to Whaley, and all the guys in the middle, whether it was Brandon or Modrak, who was just kind of a ho-hum, this is just a job for me guy, came in and said, you know what, or sat there at a pre-draft presser and said, this is all about Josh Allen. Thank you, because you go back, if you can, in the annals, none of those guys ever said, yeah, well, this is all about our quarterback. And not that they've ever had guys to say that, but, this is all about J.P. Lossman. They never said that. Dick Duran say anything with any gumption? Pfft, never. Even with Fitz, we all knew his talent was just not at a level that you could win with. They bought into that bill of goods, which was terrible. And we all know how that turned out, and they were still wishy-washy about him, though. Then you bring in EJ, they were ready to dump that ship at the end of the first year. And before that, in the middle with Trent, it was still kind of like, the first year was promising, but still, mid of the second year, they didn't bring in a quarterback that had any ability, and they brought in Terrell Owens, but still, he was such on a short leash. Trent was. It was like, he was benched for Fitz mid-season. So enough about the past, but finally, a guy in a vital leadership, decision-making position came out and said, didn't need to come out and say, just said of his own volition, it's all about Josh Allen, as it should be. The draft reflects that. The free agency, the entire offseason reflects that. Awesome. Love it. Finally, irregardless of whether it works at all or not, that's the way. Even if it doesn't, I want them to do it again. This is the way you do it, no matter what, until it works. That's the way you do it. All right, Bills fans, I've rambled on enough. Have a great one. Take care. I appreciate for any of you who stuck through this and watched me. I'm probably going to jump on live to just get the tenor of how you guys are feeling. But I can't, again, go back to how much I appreciate you watching these and commenting and whether you subscribed or not, liked or not. I'm never going to beg for those. Click like, click sub. If you want to do that, you want to do that. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. I don't take it personal, and I don't like to feel like I want somebody to do something because they want to, not because they feel obligated or like, he asked, I'll do it. No, do it because you want to do it. You can even click dislike. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, nor should I be. All right, guys, have a great Sunday. Take care. Enjoy. Go Bills. Let me know what you think about the 2019 draft and the, still quarter of a year left to go to a real games played. Have a great one, guys. Take care.